me to do was that when I do start recording, I'm supposed to do a
Yes.
clap,
Yeah.
so that
Every time.
my VAs can match the audio correctly. If we're gonna do that, which I guess we're not. Okay. All right. Okay. So we are live here, recording. This over there. Okay. All right. So, wait, is that a good clap? Did I get a good clap
Very
in there?
good clap. Woo, professional.
Very professional clap there. Okay. So we are here with Briohny Smyth. And I'm very excited to have her here. She's one of my favorite people in the world. That is the truth.
Oh.
And so I'm stoked that we get to sit here and pick her brain and have her do what she does best, to talk. And well, she does a lot of things best, but
thank you.
she is a good talker.
Yeah, I just heard from you that I'm a good talker, and I thought, do I spend most of my sessions just blah 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 blah?
No, it was from like when we recorded the video. I was like, yeah, she likes to talk. It's awesome. I love it. You like to talk more than me, so this works out well.
Yes.
And we're gonna talk a little bit about you. So why don't you tell everyone who you are?
Well, hello. My name is Briohny Smyth, and Briohny is also fine, or Bri, just not Bree. At this point in my life, I'm a mom of two. I'm also an entrepreneur, and I am a yoga teacher by trade, but really interested in the entrepreneurial side of the wellness industry and well vested there as well. So, and I would say what you're doing is very much in that wellness, but also more so in the medical side, which is very interesting to me. I love to communicate. In your words, it's talk. But I realized, years ago that communication, or at least my job, is more than just entrepreneurship, and it's more than just teaching. It's actually the ability to communicate, and that has served me very well throughout my career so far, and helped me a lot in my relationships.
So communication is key, definitely. How else would you describe what you do?
That's interesting. So multiple facets. This is how I always start when someone asks me what I do. I say, I'm in the wellness industry. I'm a yoga teacher, but there are multiple facets to what I do. So at the core of it, I'm teaching people that ancient practice of yoga, and what is most practiced now is the asana, or the yoga movement and the poses, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I love it. I think it's wonderful for people to, connect with their bodies, slow down, begin to learn how to have patience in poses, and learn about where they're coming from, right? Because our bodies are all very different. What's tight, what's flexible, what's weak, what's strong. Then there is the, meditation, the breath work, all of those, the ancient practices of yoga are really helpful in this daily life. Not so much as a way of life, but as a tool in life. And one of my biggest passions is to teach teachers how to teach. That's really where I found, about 8 years ago, found my calling. I enjoy it because it's more than just teaching teachers how to teach. It's taking someone who has been touched deeply by the practice of yoga, who wants to dedicate their life to sharing it, and bringing them on a journey, not just in their careers, but in their personal lives, in their self-realization, in their growth, in their strength. And it's just an amazing journey to be a part of, because I grow every single time I lead someone through this. So there's the teacher training part, and I'm also really present on social media. I think, of course there are the evils to social media, but it's been a wonderful way for someone who really believes in the art of communication to be able to share, what my passion is. And so I love being on Instagram, sharing about yoga and family and entrepreneurship. It's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. That's all so far. I'm contemplating others, but it's just too much. And I've also been, in the festival industry. I took Wanderlust to Australia, New Zealand, and Asia. That was very interesting. Lots of different experiences through that, and I also have classes online with Our Moves, and it's just been a really interesting ride, and I'm the most present I've ever been in my life, and it's interesting to have this present state of mind even in your business, and it's just all coming like, well, it's this full circle where you can actually live a fulfilling life in every part of it: family, business, relationships, self. It's cool.
I am constantly impressed at how you're able to do so much. Like, how can you do all of that? And then you're just talking about being present and like not having it like take over your life. And has it always been like this, or is it?
No, definitely not. I was lucky to have grown up in very entrepreneurial, I say that word entrepreneurial a lot, but a very entrepreneurial family. Neither one of my parents worked for other people for very long. And I was, their assistant in their home office from 5 years on, so 5 years old on. So it was, I had that wonderful role modeling on that side. So I always, my mom and dad, to this day, they're both 72 or 73. They're just happy and working and doing whatever they decide to do on that work side, and it's what drives them. That became a little bit of a problem for me. I spent all of my 20s and about a quarter of my 30s just hustling, and it took a toll on myself. There was no room for self-care. It took a toll on relationships, 2 marriages down the drain. But it was very beneficial for my work. I really got to places that I wanted to go, and started to really believe in my ability. So I haven't always been this balanced at all. I've been imbalanced most of my life, and how did I do all of that? Lots of drive. I had a baby, and my second child, he was a month when I got back on the road and started traveling. And I built my business by just continuously taking every opportunity that came about, which I always give as advice to people, like, you get an opportunity, you take it, and I still believe it. But in the last 3 years, I've gotten to a place where I needed to take care of myself, because my relationships were failing, and that was my fault. And I really wanted to build a better relationship with myself in order to have a fulfilling relationship with friends, boyfriend, whatever it may be, kids, parents. And interestingly enough, through that, I have actually been able to grow my business even more because I hustled so much over the last decade. By pulling back and creating more time, I was able to decide where I wanted to put my energy and really narrow my focus. So I'm in a really awesome place right now. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so one of the things that you mentioned about taking opportunities, would you say that now that you don't take every opportunity, or you spend more time thinking about which ones you decide to do, has that given you more time or more ability to sort of focus on what you want your end goal to be?
Yeah, I suppose I should clarify that a bit, because I think it's really important to take opportunities. Because, I guess the way I'll clarify it, because I took every opportunity and put my heart and soul into every facet of my business. And what I mean by that is I would, partner with any brand that would contact me. I would create contact for anyone, content, not contact. And I would travel to any yoga studio in the world that wanted me to teach at it. That was the last decade of my life. Because I did that, I was able to build a foundation for myself. Whether it be credibility or people knowing who I am, a variety of things that you do when you put yourself out there. But because I did that, I am able now to have a brand that I can mold, right? I can decide, all right, now I can take this brand the direction that I want it to go. And what is that? And you're right, by slowing down, I was able to identify what I really want my life to look like in the next 5, first 1 year, then 3 years, then 5, then 10. And, by slowing down, I was able to create the team, to create the plan, well, create the plan first, then create the team, and actually start to act upon it with confidence. Because, you know, on the surface, I'm confident and very good at that because I grew up in the entertainment industry, but it never really matched the inside. And I think every person has a certain level of insecurity, but by having a plan and a team of supportive people, you know, who call you out on your insecurities and say things like, no, wait a second, that's BS because you can do this. You're like, oh, okay. I'm not gonna let my fear guide my decisions. Did that answer your question?
Yes, yeah, that was perfect. How did you go from, like, or what happened, what was the change that happened when you were like, okay, I'm a yoga teacher, but now, like, I'm ready to teach other people?
Oh, yeah. The yogi in me is going to say, well, you know, being of service is the ultimate gift, right? The ultimate gift. And I believe that. And honestly, I can't, if I would have followed my mother's advice when I was in my teens, which is like marry rich and relax for the rest of your life. Sorry, I had to be honest. My mom's Asian. This is very Asian, right? And she means well. I wouldn't be happy because money isn't everything, you know, and so I'm saying that because I forgot the question.
How did you go from yogi to?
Yeah, I'm saying that because teacher trainings are going to be one of the most lucrative facets of our industry. Of course, you know, there's other things, right? But the teacher trainings have been around a long time, and that's kind of the pinnacle of you know, your income maker. It's also the biggest time investment, biggest energetic investment. So I'll be honest and say, you know, I saw when I came into this industry that was where, you know, it would make the most sense for my time and return on investment. But it's not for everyone. It's intense and it can take a lot out of you. But, you know, fortunately for me, I love it. It's my favorite part. I mean, I look forward to my teacher trainings wholeheartedly, and it's interesting because it takes me out of my comfort zone. I'm meeting completely new people, spending, you know, 2, 3, 4 weeks with a huge group of people and going through some really tough times, you know, dealing with everything from intense emotions to intense weather and, like, you know, intense people. And strangely, I just love it because it's this big challenge, and like I said, you know, previously, I grow tenfold every single time. I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday, saying I go into a teacher training, and this is, like I said, this is like 40, 50, sometimes 60, 70 people for 2, 3, 4 weeks straight, 12 hours a day, right? And I go into it thinking I'm pretty good. I look forward to this, but I'm pretty good. And I come out of it like, I cannot believe the realizations I've had, the amount of shift. It's just like mind blowing. And I look back and I'm like, how did I believe that I was okay 2 months ago when I'm here looking at myself 2 months ago thinking, what the hell was wrong with you? Long story short.
Okay, so you just came off of a training, right? Off of a few trainings.
Yeah.
What did you learn from these ones? Just how about just like, we'll talk about like in terms of how you like led it. I'm sure you reflect back and you say, oh, I'm going to change this, or I'm going to do this. Like, what are you going to do different for the next year?
Surrender was a big one. You know, it's not really what you would expect, right? As a teacher someone leading a training, you would think, oh, you would want the opposite, right? Not surrender, but you take control and you make things happen. And that's been my motto my whole life. You know, I realized very early on in an almost car accident when I was 15. I was like driving on a 2-lane road in Thailand, and there was a truck barreling down at me in my lane. I was 15. And my parents
have lanes there? Sorry, hold on.
Yeah, there's lanes. This is like a country road, and it's all about passing, right? And I'm going up the hill, and this truck is passing another truck in my lane, dead on towards me, going downhill. And I was just like, I didn't freak out, and I just reacted, and I drove the car into, the ditch in the side of the road as the truck just went past. And I looked to my parents, and their faces are white. It was so fast because, things like that happen fast. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm okay in these sorts of situations. Like, I made the right decision. I didn't freak out, but then I freaked out after. And then it was like, adrenaline and all sorts of things. And that's stayed with me for a long time, and I always feel like I'm great at problem solving. So I've done that, but it cost me so much energetically because I would be so stressed. And this is what I'm getting towards is the answer to your question, like in teacher trainings and in events and leading, big events, long events with lots of people. I would take on any problem so personally. And I would just like head first, make sure it's all fine. And then every day there's 10 problems. And at the end of the training, I need like a month of just recovering to be human again. And then I realized this training, not just with the trainings, but with the people and with all of like the drama that goes on, because I was still leading it with my ex-husband who had his girlfriend there. It was like, and my kids are there. It was interesting. I just realized, you know what? I can get the same result without having to go through all the stress and anxiety and taking it personally and all the frustration that comes with my emotional reaction to problems. Problems are going to happen. So I just surrendered. Okay, how can I get through this, deliver the same result without it costing me so much?
In looking back to the first training that you did,
Oh my gosh.
what was that like? Do you remember it?
Oh yes, vividly. I'm a go-getter, so I got the opportunity to teach trainings, and I took it. And my ex-husband, who he was co-teaching with me for many, many years, he was like, "We are not ready for this. I am not ready for this. We need to be in the yoga world. We need to be like a senior teacher teaching for 30 years or whatever to teach trainings." And I thought, why? People want to come and learn. At the time, it was just handstands. Like, everyone wanted to do handstands, which it's still a very fun topic. It's like, at the very least, we teach people how to do handstands. We are teachers, so we can share. It was a 200-hour at first, right? So it's not teaching teachers, it's teaching people who want to be teachers. So we've been teaching for 3 years. At the very least, we just share where we're coming from and what we've done, and that's what we did. And I think, of course, now I have a lot more to share, and the quality of my wisdom is better. It's not perfect, but it's better. I would say, I was very young at the time, young in many, many ways, and I enjoyed it, but, it was a bit of a shit show. However, I'm still friends with some of those students, and they're very forgiving, let's just say that.
What would your today self tell your brand new teacher self before you taught your first training? What would the advice been? And would you have been able to understand it?
Well, that's a big one. Understand it logically, yes. Digest it and apply it, hell no. I'm so stubborn. And I think we all are, right? We know things logically, we give it great advice, but taking it and applying it is different. I would say to that self that, the same thing I just realized this year, you don't need to control everything, and you can't. And you can't control anyone, and you can't control or change anyone either. Accountability, that's what I would say, is the only person you can change or control or have any sort of influence over is yourself, so start there.
Is that the same advice you would, like, if you were just giving like a blanket talk to people that were thinking of becoming yoga instructors, or a friend that came up and said, or a yoga teacher, and they came up and said, I kind of want to start this, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What would the advice be there?
In a sense, in essence, I should say, yes, it would be the same advice, but not everyone comes from the same place. I come from a place of being overly driven at times, over controlling, and so that works for me, right? And some people need a bit more of a kick in the butt and need to, be told like, hey, you've got this, right? So, but at the same time, it is the same, because the self, right, the study, the improvement, the focus needs to be on the self before it's on anything else. And that really is important, especially when you're in the field that I'm in, or even that you are, right? Because we are sharing with people. We're not just teaching people, we're sharing with people. And when people come to trainings, I notice that there's a part of what I'm doing or who I am that they are attracted to, right? And that maybe they want to apply within themselves. And the most common question I get is like either, how do I do a handstand, right? How do I get stronger? Or how do I share as honestly as you are? I feel I get that question the most. Like, hey, I want to be able to be personable when I teach. I want to be able to understand the cues that I'm saying and just kind of share it. I want to be able to share life stories. And I say, well, I could give you a script, but the only way I got here is by honestly being myself and loving myself and coming to terms and acceptance of all the bad things about myself and not sweeping it under the rug. I mean, you just have to practice being a human being and being okay with it and then communicating it. That's why I love the idea of the fact that teachers are actually master communicators. We're just communicating what we know, and we're only able to help people hear it by just being a human being, sharing with another human being. The moment I hear someone reading something, or it sounds like they're reciting something, I lose interest. When we're so intuitive as people now because we have social media, right? We can tell what's fake, what's not. And people are smart, they'll listen to you when it feels real and they resonate, and they won't when it doesn't, unless you're that Michaela thing you just showed me, which is so strange. You don't know what we're talking about. It's what is it?
Lil Michaela.
Lil Michaela.
On Instagram. It's crazy.
It's crazy and neat at the same time.
Yeah.
Because the reason I would watch her is to think about, like, there's a whole team behind this and the creativity behind it, but it's weird.
Yeah, totally weird. Totally weird. I still think she's real, kind of.
You wish she was real.
Maybe, yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and then there's the downside or the duality to being overly vulnerable, right? Like, we know vulnerability works when it comes to getting the attention of followers, but I'm really careful. I mean, I have a 14 to 15-year-old daughter, I have a family and a personal life that's kind of murky and like complicated with divorces here and there. And for me, I'm really careful with keeping my life and sharing my lessons from it, and not the day-to-day sort of struggles and problems that I have.
How do you do that? Like that, I mean, that's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting to hear you talk about it like that, because it seems very complicated to balance that. Because you're right, yeah. I mean, I could only imagine for a 15-year-old daughter, like, want their mom's business all over.
Oh yes, I mean, a year ago, I told my followers, I was like, you will no longer see my bare butt on this channel. Like, I'm not going to take photos of my butt in a swimsuit because I don't need my daughter's friends saying your mom's a MILF. Like, that's, it's just, I'm sorry, but it's not cool, you know what I mean? And I love her, and I'm compassionate towards her, the situation. For me, how do I manage that? It's hard because you see other influencers who are pouring everything out there, and they're living on their stories, and they're talking about their breakups, and they're talking about their depression, and I think it's beautiful and wonderful. And their followers love it, and they're gaining more and more followers. But for me, I just, it's just my boundary. And I do share about my personal life, but after I've gone through it, and after I've dealt with it head on, and I've learned my lesson, whatever lesson it may be from it, then I share about it and I'm honest about it. But I just feel that, personal life is personal life, and coming, from being in the entertainment industry in the 90s, where, it was the exact opposite. You protected your personal life, and, so it was actually more of like the opposite growth for me, right? Like, okay, be a bit more personable, and I enjoy that now because I really do see my community on social media, not as followers, but as a community, you know, I respond to all the DMs, all of the comments, you know, I have help as well to make sure that people get response from me. But it's always in my words, and if not, it's always me. And I've gotten so much support, you know, especially through tough times where I've shared about divorce or whatever it may be. And it's wonderful to feel that support from people you don't actually know in person, but you know they know you because they're always there commenting and digesting what you have to offer.
Was there somebody like through your journey that you look at as like being like most influential or like a mentor?
I would say there's many in different ways, right? There's you know, my senior teachers, people who taught me how to teach yoga, that I like. Annie Carpenter is her name, and she is well versed in the yogic philosophy and yoga and alignment, and just impeccable and incredible communicator. But at the same time, you know, she was also really smart with her business. And maybe later in her life is when, because she went off on her own, split from Yoga Works and did her own thing called Smart Flow. I really admired that, you know, it's like, it doesn't matter when, it's never too late, right? Do your own thing and make your own brand. And Catherine Budig as well in my industry, she was the first sort of younger teacher, she's just a little bit older than me, where I was like, oh, yoga teachers don't have to wear a unitard. You know, they can be cool and have social media accounts and like swear and be, you know, successful at the same time. She really inspired me to be where I am now. And then there are, you know, people like you, for instance, who are doing, I meet people like this all of the time. Like, I don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room or the most successful. It's nice, of course, for the ego, right? But meeting people who are doing their own thing, forging their own path, doing everything as an entrepreneur, because that's what you need to do these days, right? You have a brick and mortar location, you're running, you know, your dream, which is to share I guess, what is your dream?
What is my,
Yeah.
are we flipping this?
We're flipping this.
We're flipping it.
Like, do you guys know what this guy does? He needs to have a podcast of like his own story, but what is your dream here?
My dream here is to be able to well, there's a lot of dimensions to it, but ultimately we want to help people stay active, and we want to create an experience here where people have basically access to knowledgeable people that aren't just making shit up and learning things from Instagram, but a whole team of people that really care about them, and are here to like be their guide through it, you know? I mean, in today's day where I mean, you get like 3.5 minutes with your doctor, and I mean, almost every single one of my patients, when they come and see me and they're like, oh, I forgot to ask my doctor this and that and this, and like, I love that we can be there to like help bridge that gap, where, you know, we're giving them like real up-to-date advice, but also understanding the gray areas that is in life, and making sure that we can put together plans that they can be successful with, and understanding, okay, you fall off the horse, but you're going to come back in here and we're going to figure out the next thing for you to do, so you can keep doing these things that you love. You can play with your kids, you know, and as they get older you can keep playing with them, or, you know, now they've gone away and you want to go and travel and do all these things. So quality of life and just creating a community of like-minded people that value that, and then also value like being able to come into like a beautiful space that like they value experiences, and they're driven by nice experiences, and so I don't know, that's what we do. Okay, flip it back.
No, but that is what you're doing. I mean, that's exactly what you're doing. I believe that we are now in this era of experience. People want to have good experiences. I always call it the experience generation. Like, you scroll Instagram, why influencers are so, what's the word, successful, is because they're not just selling you a product, right? When you look at a picture or a video, you're like, I don't just want that product. I want that product in that experience that you're experiencing right now. I want to look like that. I want to be there. I want to do that. And, that's commercialism. It's been around a very, very long time, right? So I don't think it's wrong, but we all want to experience what we see. And you do here, I will say, really, really offer that. Before I came here, I went to one of those, this whatever physical therapy places where there's 40 million people in there, and you're like one person, and you're like, what am I doing? And this is so strange, and I don't like this, and I'm injured. And it was a horrible experience. Then I came here, I remember calling you, being like, I need to see you like right now. Can you see me right now? You're like my ninth person to call, just because I went down a list that I printed on Google. Actually, you were the first one on Google, but I called first, and your answering service picked up, and then you called me back.
Yeah.
So note, you were the first on Google. Good job. But what I wanted to say about that is that you're inspiring, right? Surround yourself with inspiring people, and that's why I continue to come back. I mean, I'm walking fine, my knee's fine, but I come back because I learn every time I'm here, and I like what you're offering. It's the same thing I want to offer people who come in contact with me. It's not like, I'm not going to teach you what to say. I'm going to teach you why you're saying it. I'm not going to teach you who you need to be. I can only hope to help you figure out who you are and how you can share your passion with others, whether it be in person or on social media.
I love it. And that's why you're my favorite. Because I always learn something from you too.
Thank you, likewise.
I'm very fortunate that like the people that come in here, they usually have something to offer me too. So I guess that's selfish in a way.
No, but that's relationships, right?
Yeah.
It's not selfish to want a two-way street, right? And we always think in yoga especially, it's like we should only be selfless. No, every single thing in life needs its duality. Otherwise it's imbalance. So that's why yoga teachers suffer from adrenal fatigue and thyroid issues and unhappiness at a certain point, because all you do is give. You cannot just give, you need to also receive.
And they can't afford avocado toast.
They can't afford
avocado toast.
Or kombucha.
Yeah, this is a big problem.
It's really a messed up situation, man. But I think through communication like this, through podcasts, through Instagram, and really and through trainings even, we are helping to educate and empower people to value themselves more and educate themselves in a better way.
All right, Bri, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh man, 5 years.
I know you have it planned out. I know you have 5 and 10, and I know you do.
The crazy thing is, 5 years my daughter will be in college. Yeah, my son will be in middle school. He wants to go to boarding school.
For real?
He does, yeah. He's like,
what?
Hell bent on. He's like, no, I'm going to West Point. I'm like, no,
what?
You're not.
Wait, can you do that at 10 years old?
No, you can't. High school.
Right.
But so 5 years for me, I hope to see everything that I'm doing right now to come to fruition. So that's, I'm building a online educational platform for yoga teachers, wellness educators to have a resource to come and learn the real thing behind business or cueing or anatomy, which I want you to be a part of. So I hope that that's come to fruition and it's working, and coaching people, helping people that I believe in to get to where they want to get. And me, myself, I have time for meditation. I have a fulfilling and balanced enough relationship with someone, maybe the person I'm with now, and especially with myself.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and last thing I wanted to ask you is, do you have a book that you like, that you commonly buy for somebody, or that you, like one of your most recommended books?
Oh, that is a good one. That is a hard one. Oh, well, The Warrior Within and things like the 4 Agreements. If I'm talking with my daughter, I gave the 4 Agreements to my daughter. And so if I'm talking to someone who's just embarking on a spiritual path, books like that, The Warrior Within or 4 Agreements is really great. But I am more of a podcast person right now. And I really love Jay Shetty's On Purpose. He's great. I think, sure, he takes other people's quotes and puts his name on it and he uses them, but I really don't care because he is a master communicator and that's what it's all about, right? If you can listen to someone and, you know, digest what they're saying and relate to it, I think that's magic there. So I would say I'm listening to that right now and I can't wait to listen to this podcast. Is it gonna be called Victory Performance?
It's the Victory Performance Podcast.
Yeah.
As of today.
I'm excited. The 4 that you've already recorded sound really interesting.
Yeah.
But I say books, that would be it. Maybe what is that one called? The Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Okay. I haven't read that yet. Good?
I think it's good. You know, because it's really not saying that. It's interesting, you know, because it's just, books are great, but they should inspire, and they do, you to think differently, or to evaluate how you think.
Sometimes even making you think. That's a tough thing. People don't spend as much time thinking as they think they do.
They spend too much time thinking about what other people would think. So do I. That's such a waste of time. Yeah. And you, what books?
The book that I bought for most people, I have 2 of them that I bought for the most people. In terms of like entrepreneurship or business, it's the E-Myth. And that was one that somebody had recommended to me. It was Scott Mark, who's one of the founders of Myo Detox. He had recommended that to me, and I loved it. And that was what changed me from like thinking smaller, like I'm just going to be a solo practitioner, to I don't want to own a job. I really want to own a business, and I want to, and all the stuff that has since come after that.
What is it called again?
The E-Myth.
The
Or it's
E-Myth.
like the entrepreneurial myth.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay, got
it's great. Talks about why businesses fail and why people burn out. So anybody who's thinking of starting a business, that should be one of the first books that they read.
I'm gonna read that.
You might be past a lot of that stuff, but it's a great book.
Cool.
And then the other one that I buy for people is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Yes. I've
Excellent
listened
book.
to half of that on Blinkist.
Yeah, a great book, and made me realize how much of an asshole I was. So.
Oh, wow, this is good.
Or a poor communicator. How poorly I communicated before. So I'm impressed being in the presence of a master communicator like yourself.
Oh, trying.
All right. So do you have anything you want to plug, or where can they find you?
You can find me. I have a website, Yoga with Briohny. I have an Instagram and YouTube, all under the same name, Yoga with Briohny. I teach trainings once, twice a year. Yeah, I'd love to connect with you.
And how do you spell Briohny?
That's a good one. Briohny.
Okay, you heard it here first.
Briohny.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. And yeah, we'll cut out this last part where I'm just kind of blubbering right now.
Well, maybe not.
Well, maybe not.
Bye.
All right, it was 40 minutes.
That's good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very
That was fun.
Yeah.
I liked where that went. And I don't know, do you have any feedback for me? As I'm
No,
sure you've
you're
been on
great.
like a million podcasts.
Oh, I think you're a great listener and easy to talk to, and you're involved. Yeah, I think you've got all of the good podcast
Cool.
qualities.
I went the first 2. I like really went through these questions, and it wasn't like as flowy.
I didn't feel that way. It was good.
Okay,
It was good. You have to go there to get started, or I just keep blabbing on and on and on and on and on and on.
It was good. You are the communicator, so that was sort of that's the point, makes it easier. So yeah, the last one I did was with the guy. He's a podcaster. He does a car podcast.
Oh, yes.
And he talks too. So it was like pretty easy for me to sort of go through it and just like
Chat.
he would just go.
That's great.
We filmed that one too. So I've got a couple
Cool.
now. We did that actually in his studio.
Nice.
Which was kind of cool to see their different setups. But he's got that's what he does, right? And he does live ones on YouTube
Great.
and monetizes them. So you can do, I don't know if you do this, but you can like while you're doing these live ones, you can have people like donate, And so he does a segment where like if people donate, he'll answer their question on the podcast.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
And he said people have like given him like $50, $100 to like ask a question.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Sounds like what Instagram's trying to do. Did you hear about Facebook's Libra thing?
What's that?
They're trying to go into the cryptocurrency.
Really?
It's going to be very different from cryptocurrency, even though it is. It's going to be, what's the word, when the government has control over it? Whatever.
Oh.
I forget.
So it won't really be crypto?
It's more like e-currency. They're going, and it's, you should Google it and read about it. I'm gonna butcher it.
Okay. Libra it's called.
It's called Libra. Hopefully. Oh my God, I'm so sore.
Oh, good. We got